Hello everybody, welcome to another review of ICOfavorites.com. Today we're going to talk about this REMME.io blockchain application. And first of all, we're going to go through the contents of this presentation. We're going to talk about what is REMME.io, the current status quo, REMME proposal, REMME.io's features, architecture and advantages, token sale description, bonuses and proceedings, opportunities and concerns, and then we're going to wrap up. So I'll start by telling you what is REMME. REMME is a high-end secure system. But first of all, let me just give you a slight background on the blockchain industry. The blockchain is a secure technology that uses a distributed database instead of locating, storing, and maintaining data in a single location. It is a decentralized database capability that allows for addressing security concerns raised by numerous password confirmation tools available today. If a hardware failure occurs in a centralized database, it may cause all data to be lost. This doesn't happen to a distributed database such as blockchain, which makes it a very secure way to store sensitive information. By design, blockchains are resistant to data modification. Once the data is recorded, it cannot be altered. This makes them an efficient tool for recording transactions between two parties in a verifiable and permanent way. Blockchain features guarantee users secure passwords and take into account the important role of human nature in creating passwords. However, only a few companies used its potential to tackle the subject of password-related issues. With all that said, there is a way to fix the problems of companies like LinkedIn or Yahoo that have been recently plagued with. REMME depends on technology to prevent hacker technologies to misuse of information, which is why REMME has developed a technology that helps people make the first step towards protecting their own personal data, keeping private businesses' conversations, payments, financial and medical records private. Talking about the status quo of the situation right now, well, in 2016, just 2 years ago, the attack on Yahoo led to around 1 billion Yahoo user accounts being compromised. Cybercriminals were able to obtain names, passwords, and other personal details such as telephone numbers and answers to security questions. Sadly, this wasn't the first hacker attack to Yahoo. Afterward, loads of DIY guides on how to attack a Yahoo account were posted and are still online today. The findings of security companies only confirm this unfortunate trend. In 2016, Verizon reported that 65% of confirmed data breaches involve weak, default, or stolen passwords. It is much less than compared to the 95% in 2015, but still the company states that the real problem, which accounts for 90% of all security incidents, are people. Numerous users fall for phishing attacks, attempts to obtain sensitive information such as usernames, passwords, and credit card details, disguised as credible requests. According to Verizon, 23% of people open phishing emails, half of them even open attachments. At this time, global level of cyber attacks is far greater than the number of tools to fight them effectively. Reports show that cybercrime is a growth industry that costs the global economy about $400 billion annually. Over 70% of organizations have increased their spending on cybersecurity in 2017 as opposed to just 58% the previous year. Mostly the problems are related to passwords, as I told you before. Annually, billions of dollars are spent on this cybersecurity issue, as even the slightest breach can bring disastrous consequences. The number of services that are supposed to minimize the danger of being hacked grows, including browsers remembering passwords or password managers just like 1Password or LastPass. However, they only deliver minor improvements without changing the nature of the problem. A larger problem is the centralized architecture of the database storing logins and passwords on a server, which means if it's hacked, all data can be accessed at once. Unfortunately, even two-factor authentication has been proven to be penetrable through the social engineering. This is especially true with data delivered via SMS, as hackers can access user data through a user's login phone number that can be provided to a phone company. Current solutions no longer meet these requirements. This went as far as Equifax losing the personal data of 143 million US customers because of using admin as the username and password. So what is REMME proposal? REMME'S proposal is to develop a PKI, a public key interface, so that passwords and human error can be eliminated to provide high-end secure system. So what happens nowadays is that the main method of accessing various local and network resources is a password that has proven itself a way of identifying and securing users and resources. However, it has one serious drawback. In case of stealing a password, an attacker gets access to all the data of the user who owned this password. In addition, users eventually have the same password for multiple services. The situation gets even worse because these passwords can be weak and even be the subject of vocabulary attack. Password databases from a variety of resources periodically fall into open access. In general, even if the resource provides the ability to change the password, this method is somewhat vulnerable since the user's mailboxes are usually protected by a password, often the same as that of used on other resources. Thus, the password cannot serve as a sufficient instrument for protecting user data and guarantee the security of the user session. An approach to this problem is a password manager. Just like I said before, that this software which provides a secure storage for passwords and in case of integration as a browser extension is able to withstand numerous ways of stealing passwords. Also, password managers are often sensible and able to generate secure passwords that are unique to each resource, which takes security to a new level. The obvious drawbacks of such protection is that the storage is protected with a master password, and in case of theft or brute force master password, it all boils down to the previous thesis. The two-factor authentication I told you before provides a partial solution of password problems. For two-factor authentication, in addition to the password, it is required to provide the resource with some more data that should be available only to a particular user. Examples of this second aspect is one-time passwords that are generated every second are most common option usually. Of course, usually implemented with the TOPP protocol. One-time passwords sent in the message, usually SMS or instant messengers is used, or hardware tokens. Another way of authorizing a user into the system is SSL/TLS certificates, which are widely adopted in enterprise solutions such as banking or tech services. A system of public key infrastructure supports the creation, distribution, and identification of public encryption keys, enabling users in systems to do both. So both securely exchange data of untrusted environments such as the internet, as well as verify the identity of other party of conversation. PKI, what REMME intends to implement, provides possibilities for digital signature, confirmation of authentication, non-repudiation, and message integrity, data encryption, confidentiality during data storing, transfer, and processing, and also authorization in a one complex system. The core of PKI, the public key encryption systems, a private key for encryption and a public key for decryption, based on strong mathematical approaches. But simple presence of public-private key is not enough for trust. There should be a complex and comprehensive system with all functions listed above. Typically, PKI consists of a lot of controls beginning from policies and standards through administration and management to software and hardware. PKI can be realized in different architectures, simple network, hierarchy, etc. But we should understand that the heart of the PKI is the digital certificates. A digital certificate is a document designed to affirm the identity of the certificate subject and bind that identity to the public key contained in the certificate. A typical scheme of the PKI includes these elements: the certification of authority, which is a trusted party that provides the services for issue of digital certificates. You can check that online on your browser. The RA, the Registration Authority, a trusted party responsible for accepting requests for digital certificates and authenticating the entity making the request. Sometimes RA is also called a subordinate CA. And the Validation Authority, a trusted party, provides a service used to verify the validity of a digital certificate. It's clear that different VA should have a different database of valid certificates, revoked certificates, and the communication with different CA. As we can see, functioning of PKI based on trusted authorities with different functions. From our point of view, we should focus on several core issues. First of all, PKI now is government regulated or business-driven ecosystem, depends on the sector of application. Government CA and PKI are usually not acceptable for wide public or SMB use according to different limitations and application locking. For example, specific CA works with specific tax reporting software. Services of business CA very often actually, become expensive, and there is a collusion between software vendors and CA for including a specific CA into a list of trusted for this software. For example, web browsers don't accept all certificates issued by different CAs. Some time ago, it was Brilliant Vision named Web of Trusts, where most of noted passwords are supposed to secure our information. But even the most trustworthy of companies don't always stand against the forces of evil in the online world. For example, did you actually know that the latest attack on LinkedIn caused credentials of 117 million users for the professional networking site to be put up for sale online? So what this means is, having said all of this, REMME appears to have found a way to prevent attacks like this from even happening, and stop attackers, of course, from obtaining private information using blockchain. The goal of REMME, high-end security, is to build a distributed public key infrastructure on top of the X509 standard using blockchain that will help IoT, the Internet of Things, financial infrastructure, medtech, and blockchain companies address the problem of security failings. The PKI is a set of roles, policies, and procedures that are necessary to create and manage digital certificates and public key encryption. It's being used to secure the electronic transfer of information in e-commerce, online banking, and confidential correspondence. This way, passwords and human error are eliminated to provide a high-end security system. This is easy to do without compromising security. REMME solves the problem of the central services that can be hacked, as well as preventing attacks such as phishing, server and password breach, and password reuse attacks. I believe that blockchain will help build a safer future and offers solutions that potentially can prevent terrorist attacks or stop hackers from overriding election software in a candidate's favor. But that's just far ahead of its time, actually. So what this means is that REMME eliminates passwords. Simple passwords make every account on every website vulnerable. No matter how much money you spend on security for your company, all these efforts are in vain. If customers use passwords that are easy to crack or steal, it doesn't matter, right? Not to mention the harm that password confirmation tools available online can do. While a lost Facebook account can be seen as a minor loss, the same technology can be used to break into government systems and those of global corporations, causing economic, political, and ecological losses. Talking about advantages of the REMME system, there is no centralized database of certificates and keys that can be compromised. So we're talking about a distributed distributed architecture with no single point of failure. There are no technology locking or API limitations. There's easy integration with existing systems. There are no additional fees for different certificates or credentials in every CA. There are no possibilities for collusion between software and hardware vendors, and limited count of CAs. That's very important. Fast and protected public key distribution process, fast and protected certificate revocation process as well. This will make things very, very agile, definitely. There's going to be a single point of trust for different systems, easy to single sign-on implementation, decentralized worldwide available authorization. There are no legal limitations and government cooperation issues. And of course, it's acceptable for different types of multi-factor authentication, full anonymity. This is one of the most important characteristics of the blockchain architecture, and it allows to track all issued certificates, provide complete and transparent control. For a simple user, it could look complicated, but it is all very simple. You don't need to remember counts of your login and passwords. You don't need to pay 5 or 10 authorities for certificates used in tax, legal, bank, technical, or other types of software. You don't need to control the live time of each password or certificate or key. Now, REMME'S features. The REMME technology has TLS SSL certificates that protect the channel from an attack, such as a man-in-the-middle attack, where the attacker secretly alters the communication between two parties without them noticing. The technology allows to validate certificates without the certification authority-created trusted peer-to-peer TLS connection. Certification authority is replaced by the blockchain architecture. REMME allows companies to issue and revoke their own self-signed certificates. The certificate is releasing with the email address and phone number of a user. Then server checks the certificate's signature and creates a random number. Company generates certificate locally and then installs it to a certificate store on a local machine where it stores encrypted with some secret phrase. The certificate uses API from certificate store on a local machine to interact with the private keys, which adds an additional layer of security in comparison with other account protection technologies. So in addition, REMME provides a two-phase authentication protocol based on the app a user already has. Instead of the traditional text messages and the OTP codes, users get an authentication token via the messenger apps like Telegram, Messenger, WeChat of their choice. The consensus algorithm, one of the most sensitive algorithms of the blockchain, in this case, REMME is built on a custom blockchain. It is necessary to design a special consensus algorithm suitable for the REMME network. In general, the project-specific requirements are to provide a stable response time of the system, that's crucial, be independent of the user's hardware, incentivize the validating users to stay online. 2 and 3 together lead to the point 1 that I just said. The solution for this task is the algorithm called Proof of Service, which is firstly introduced in the Dash Masters node network. So these nodes do not depend on the hardware capabilities. They can incentivize the users to stay online by ranking their uptime. And of course, they are suitable for public networks. This algorithm can be also described as a form of proof of stake algorithm with the additional factor of uptime. For the detailed comparison of consensus algorithms, the core of this algorithm is the network of master nodes. Our concept will be slightly different from the one introduced in Dash. The main entity in this algorithm is the global list. It contains the full list of nodes which are eligible to sign new blocks. When a new node is introduced into this list, it is placed into the end of the list. Nodes are selected from the list stored in the blockchain in order that they are introduced in the list. The algorithm specifies the desired and maximum time in which the blocks should be produced. In other case, the node is moved out of the global list and have to enter the list again later. Blocks produced faster than in the desired time should be rejected. Producing a block is rewarded by fees from transactions included to the block. Note that the system can produce empty blocks, which will not be rewarded as there are no fees. This is required by the consensus algorithm as it is using timings between blocks to check if the nodes are operating correctly. REMME'S architecture. Based on the system requirements, the following list of system components is formed. The REMME core. The main task of this component is to safely and reliably store self-signed certificates and revoke their status. When used in public service, it's also responsible for the payment processing. In the framework of REMME blockchain, there is a separate type of nodes called master nodes, which are responsible for handling new blocks production. In private network, the list of master nodes is maintained by system administrators. In a public service, it is maintained automatically as described in the consensus algorithm. Anyone can run a node which stores the whole blockchain for verification purposes. Most of the clients are supposed to work in light node mode. It is, in this case, the user is not required to store the whole blockchain, just some chunks of data needed to verify users' operation. Client software on the server-side integration needed to verify provided REMME certificates. The Bitcoin anchoring system is improved for auditability. Oracle for pricing lists updates, that's also very important, needed as there is a requirement for keeping prices bound to a fiat currency. Also, it is needed because the system needs to know prices for Bitcoin and Ethereum as it is linked to them within the part of the transactions fee. The system for token cross-blockchain migration is needed as well. Talking about the passwordlessness of this architecture, well, a negative point is that no matter how much money a company spends on security, all these efforts are in vain if customers and employees use passwords that are easy to crack or steal. The positive side of the REMME implementation is that instead of the passwords to generate, the user will generate an SSL certificate for each device. The certificate data is managed on the blockchain, which makes it extremely difficult for hackers to use fake certificates. Being a decentralized system, well, the classic certificate management structures operate on a hierarchical basis, all overseen by a centralized single point of failure certificate authority. In this case, REMME uses a blockchain technology to create a distributed certificate management system that has no single point of failure. The fair pricing, well, extremely high hardware, software support, and hidden costs make it incredibly expensive to change an existing access management solution for our startups as well as for large companies. In the case of REMME, there is no need to invest millions in sophisticated hardware or software. SSL TLS technology is supported by almost every device, from your laptop to a car. Having said all of this, here's the development roadmap for REMME. On the first quarter of 2018, REMME Core public alpha version will be released. Product security audits and pen tests will be executed, extending the team of software engineers because they're ramping up their project. REMME 2018 pilot program launch and public sale phase that we're going to talk about a little bit later. On the second quarter of 2018, private blockchains for integration with enterprise systems, open source integration libraries for websites and web applications, additional two-phase authentication options such as Signal Status, WeChat, and Treasure, and do 20+ integrations. Q3 third quarter of 2018, do public testing, use the proof of stake on the master nodes for the consensus algorithm. Public testing, of course, very important. REMME Core integration with Active Dictionary and SCADA systems. Opening sales office in London, so these guys are expanding overseas, and 50+ integrations. Fourth quarter of this year, public release, consensus algorithm update, adding the proof of authority to the proof of stake, building DApps for Internet of Things on top of the REMME architecture, sales office in New York, and finalize 100+ negotiations and integrations. First quarter of 2018 and last milestone on this development roadmap, go for ecosystem growth and development, continue building the DApps on top of the REMME Core, opening sales offices in Tokyo and Singapore, and reach the 200+ integrations. Now, having said all of this, we're going to go into the token sale. 1 billion tokens will be generated by Remy. They will be called the REM, not to be confused with the band, the REM token. It is designed to perform a function of a pre-order access key that enables accesses to the software program once it is developed. REM token enables pre-order by functioning as a key enabling process. So the Remy uses blockchain technology to create a distributed certificate management system that has no single point of failure. And the REM token is the superpower boosting the whole ecosystem, operating like a license or a digital key and granting its holders access to Remy PKI and dApps. Token holders will be able to use the REM token in a variety of ways: certificate generation, revocation, node creation, developing dApps, fees covering conversation on fiat payments, etc. Here is a description of the ICO, the initial coin offering. The symbol of the token will be the REM, as I said before. Initial token supply, total token supply is 1 billion. Pre-sale soft cap $480,000. Pre-sale hard cap $3 million. Public sale hard cap $20 million, including the pre-sale stage. The initial price is going to be $0.04 US for one REM token. The type will be ERC20, of course. Currencies accepted: Ethereum and Bitcoin. The pre-sale started already in 2017, December 4th, and the upcoming 13th February 2018 will be the public sale start. Here is an insight on the use of proceeds. There will be a huge usage of proceeds for the research and development business, then business development, of course, and then marketing and legal. So we're about to finish our presentation. The goal of Remy high-end secure system is to help organizations like infrastructure companies, Internet of Things, medtech, financial and blockchain companies to protect sensitive data. It is a distributed public key infrastructure management technology built on top of an X509 certificate standard that uses SSL TLS to protect the entire channel from an attack. The REM token is needed for all internal operations inside the ecosystem, so it is obviously utility token. The proof of service consensus is used for a mix of high throughput, scalability, and security. The two-factor authentication is an additional layer of security, ensuring that only the owner of the account can access it. Even the private SSL TLS certificate key has been compromised. The choice of technology for the second factor depends on the characteristics of the system, which is protected by the Remy technology. During the development of the Remy system, a number of standards and well-known components that are time-tested are proven effective by numerous audits that were used. Remy will use the blockchain technology as a vehicle of transportation and as a source of consensus to offer a solution to this problem: decentralization. So that is all from me. If you want to find more information, the Remy website is very complete. You can find it on remme.io. They have a very detailed technical white paper where you can find more information about the Remy and the ICO as well. This is all from me. I hope that you've learned from this review. Thank you very much and have a good night.